Okay, so I have given myself a holiday deadline that makes absolutely no sense. I started this project at the beginning of December, which is bold, questionable, possibly delusional, but here we are. I've wanted to make handmade ornaments for friends and family for a long time. The dream was always one ornament each winter, a different design every year, and eventually it becomes this little tradition that just exists. The last few years, though, that wasn't realistic for me. Between recovering from my stroke and learning to live with severe chronic illness, my energy and capacity were not aligned with my creative ambitions. That's the nicest way I can put it. In 2023, I tried to start this tradition anyways by making these little felt chicken ornaments, which I still love and still sell. But each one of these takes about an hour to make. And after a few, I realized this was not a scalable tradition. This year feels different though. Not perfect, not easy, but different. I've made a ton of progress, and for the first time in a while, I feel motivated to try again. The only problem is I'm attempting this with a body that does not believe in deadlines and a calendar that does not believe in mercy. So this video is really about one question. Can I actually pull this off? At this point, I'm really not sure, but hopefully by the end of this video, I'll have done it. Or at least be really entertaining trying. So, if you want to watch me attempt a slightly unhinged holiday crafting challenge, welcome. Let's get crafting. So let's talk about why I landed on gingerbread houses this year and how this idea came together. I wanted to make some kind of paper or cardboard gingerbread house for the holidays for about 3 years. At this point, it's less of a new idea and one that keeps resurfacing, so it felt perfect to attempt this time around. Back in 2021, I bought this little paper house pattern from Leah Griffith and made a few of these for holiday decorating that year. I really love them. They're super cute and super simple, and they look really pretty hanging from a tree or set up on a mantle. But they're also fairly delicate, and there are a few things that needed to change if I wanted to use something like this. Then in August of this past summer, I bought another paper house pattern, this time the Stitch House from Kathy Holden. I'm actually using this pattern for a project that I mentioned in my craft room overhaul that hopefully I will finally get to in January. What immediately stood out to me about this one was the structure, especially this roof line. It's clever and sturdy, and I absolutely love the shape. So I decided I definitely want to use Kathy's pattern as the base for the ornament, just adjusting a few things, adding all of the little decorative gingerbready elements, and hopefully making the design something that I can make a lot of relatively quickly. But I kept thinking about Leah Griffith's design as well, and I've also been thinking about food gifts. I love the idea of gifting an ornament and something food related. Growing up, my mom used to send homemade English toffee to friends and family. That was like what she was known for. But she was also known for making a Scandinavian dessert called kransekake every Christmas. And I'm kind of known for that now. I make kransekake all the time, and people absolutely love it. And while toffee is super labor intensive, kransekake is not. So I've decided, instead of it's traditionally in ring form, I'll put a picture up on the screen of the one I made last year. I'll also put up on the screen how I also made them into little cookies, and they tasted just as good. So I'm looking at these two house patterns. I'm thinking about ornaments, I'm thinking about cookies, and my brain did what it usually does. And in epic holiday Delulu land, I'm gonna do both. This one will be the structural inspiration for the ornament, and this one will be the structural inspiration for a larger cookie box. But then I did the math, and I would need to make 50 cookie boxes and about 100 ornaments. I could do a lot less, but if I really wanted to send these out to most of the people I want to send them to, that's how many I would have to make. And it was already like December 3rd by this point. Like I said, the Delulu is Deluluing. But I bought a Silhouette Cameo cutting machine a few years ago, and these are already paper crafts. So maybe I can cut these using my cutting machine and it won't be so labor intensive. Not reasonable exactly, but maybe possible. So that was the moment I fully committed, knowing full well that I am overestimating my time and energy. But let's see how many we can get done.
And now it is time to prototype. First, I redrew Leah Griffith's house in Procreate and added the 4-panel closure at the bottom. Then I started drawing gingerbread designs on one section of the house, and as usual, I made them way too detailed at first. But once I had this bottom section done, I basically just used what I had already drawn in the bottom section to copy elements to the top section and then to the square section. And then I went through and removed a lot of the elements I had drawn because it was way too detailed. I am drawing all of these designs on each cookie box by hand later, so I really needed to simplify and save myself some trouble. Then I designed the roof scallops, which were too small at first, so I made them larger. And then I needed to airdrop that file from Procreate to my iMac so I could open it up in Adobe Illustrator to image trace it and make it a vector file. I was having a lot of trouble with image trace previously, but I figured out the silhouette option gives me the best result for something like this. And then I need to expand so it's actually a vector file, and then I like to change my stroke to 0.0001 and get rid of the fill so I just have the outlines. Then I need to make the artboard the size of the selected art, and zoom in to check all of my lines and make sure everything is connected. I'll probably go through and delete a lot of these double lines later, but for now while I'm prototyping, it's okay to score these lines on my gingerbread houses just as they are. So now I need to save this, and it took me way too long to type out this title. I'm going to save this as a PDF so it will import better into Silhouette Studio, and then I need to go down and open up Silhouette Studio. You can see I already have the base of my cookie box in Silhouette Studio, so I just need to import the decorations. I purposely made everything really big to start because I always want to be scaling down, not up, with any decorative elements. And now I'll come in and just match my roof scallops to one of the roof sections, and that should make everything else match as well. Once I had everything lined up, I need to go in and change all of my decorations to the pink color, because each color represents an action on my cutting machine, and the pink lines are going to be score lines. I want the decorations to just be scored so I can trace them later with a white paint pen. Just prototyping right now, I'm not going to make these the final size just yet. The final size will be about 17.5 inches long because my cookie box paper is 18 inches long. But for now, I'll just max out this 12 by 12 scrap cardstock that I'm using to test these out and make sure that my decorations are what I want them to be and that the house works as intended. So now I just need to go over to the send panel, and black is for cutting, so I'll check that and turn up the depth because my blade is a little dull at this point. And then I'll make sure that both pinks are set to score, and then I'll set the green lines to stipple. I'll go over to my machine and load up that scrap piece of 12 by 12 cardstock on my cutting mat, and then I just need to come back to my computer, hit send, and see how it cuts. I ended up doing this probably 10 to 20 times before I finally got exactly what I wanted and had a finished cookie box. I also did the same with my gingerbread ornament. I imported the gingerbread pattern into Procreate, and with this one I drew a bunch of different options. I really wasn't sure what I wanted, but finally I landed on these round scalloped windows and a scalloped roof. And you can see some of my other designs here. But then I did the same thing with the ornament that I did with my cookie box. I imported it into Illustrator, image traced and expanded, imported it into Silhouette Studio, and did a bunch of test cutting, and this is what I ended up with.
I started by cutting out a bunch of plain cookie boxes in different sizes, and I forgot to keep them all, but here's 2 of them, to figure out the right size and also to make sure I had gotten the bottom right, because the original Leah Griffith's house doesn't have a bottom and a cookie box needs a bottom, but I wanted to be able to get them as large as possible to really max out the 12-inch cutting width of my cutting machine. So I decided to do a 4-panel closure on the bottom. So I did that prototyping on plain ones, figured out the size. I also figured out how I wanted to do the closure with a nice ribbon. Then I did a couple more prototypes on scrap paper to dial in the decorative elements, and I ended up with this. So my final cookie box is about 4 inches by 4 inches by 7 inches, and it holds about 20 Kransekaka cookies. If I want to do 50 cookie boxes, that's 1,000 cookies. And even though Kransekaka cookies are pretty easy to make, I don't know if I have time to make that many. So I might have to reduce the number of cookie boxes for this year, but we'll see. And then the gingerbread ornaments took a lot more prototypes, and this is only a few of them here. First, I was trying to figure out the size, and these were way too big. And then I finally figured out the right size, but decided I wanted to give people the option of putting a battery-operated tea light and have light coming out the windows. So I had to change that. And then I finally got the design right, but realized I do not have time to draw all of these designs on by hand. But again, because I have a cutting machine and I already have sticker paper, I figured out to cut the designs out on sticker paper, and then I just have to stick them onto each house, which does still take some time, but a lot less time than drawing all the designs on. Then I had to figure out what type of paper to use for the windows, and this is where I finally ended up. Okay, so now all my prototyping is done. Altering the original designs and doing all of my prototyping took about a week, and now I'm really down to the wire to get everything manufactured and shipped out to arrive. Well, it's definitely not going to arrive for the solstice, but hopefully by Christmas. Prototyping also showed me that I go through a lot more consumables for this project than I realized. Number one, I originally thought every piece of cardstock I had, I would be able to make into an ornament or a cookie box. I did not realize how many pieces of cardstock would be wasted just from the finicky nature of a cutting machine and user error. So I had to order some extra paper, which I did. And then the cardstock for the cookie boxes specifically, it's not that thick. It's only 80 pounds, but it eats up cutting machine blades. And the paper for the ornaments is 67 pounds, so it's a lot thinner. So I ordered a few extra blades, a few extra cutting mats, some extra paper, and hopefully I have enough supplies on hand to just crank this stuff out over the next few days and hit my goal.
I am going to start off by cutting a bunch of ornaments on my cutting machine. This machine isn't totally automated. I do still have to flip the paper around and then take it off when it's done, put a new sheet of paper on, and load it back into my machine. But overall, this went pretty smoothly on this day. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this cutting machine. It's not super intuitive, and there has been quite a steep learning curve over the past year and a half to understand how to get the best results from it. Then I baked, I think like 6 batches of Kransekaka cookies. These are really easy to make, and I have another video coming out tomorrow going over the recipe if you want to make some at home. They are naturally dairy-free and gluten-free. Now it's time for some really hardcore production work, multitasking as efficiently as possible, and getting as much done as I possibly can before I need to head to bed. During prototyping, I managed to get 12 cookie boxes cut, and here you can see me drawing the decorations on 6 of them with a white paint pen. Drawing the decorations took a lot longer than I expected, and I'm not sure that I would do something this detailed again in the future. I had originally hoped to get all 12 cookie boxes drawn, and that just didn't happen. But the next morning I was able to get those 6 completed cookie boxes filled with cookies to ship out to my immediate family members. Then later that afternoon I made another 4 or 5 batches of cookies. It's hilarious how fast the time lapse makes everything look. This was at least 4 hours of work.
Okay, so you just saw me cutting a lot of materials and making a lot of cookies. So let's recap where I'm at with the project and possibly reassess the final goal. I just realized I completely forgot to tell you how I figured out to do some of the ornaments as kits. So because I figured out to do all of the little decorative elements as stickers, that means that for some of the more crafty friends and family members and all the kids, I'm going to send them their ornament as a kit instead of a completed ornament. So in the kit, and I've already put a couple together, you get the base gingerbread house piece, the little vellum pieces for covering the windows, the sticker sheet of all the decorations, a piece of string for your hanging loop, and a card with instructions and a QR code for a little 3-minute video I put up here on YouTube, but unlisted, of how to put it together, a little tutorial. So that will actually save me a little bit of time. I'm sending out about half of the ornaments as kits, and putting the kits together takes a lot less time than assembling the ornament itself and saves me about 5 to 7 minutes per ornament. So let me recap where I'm at with this project and talk to you about whether or not I think I need to alter my goal at all. So last night I cut out all the vellum for all the windows for all the ornaments I need, so that's done. I cut out all the sticker sheets for all the decorations, so that's done. I printed and trimmed all of my ornament cards, so that's done. I cut out about half of the ornaments themselves, so that's halfway done. I'm writing my name and the year on the bottom of every ornament so people remember who it came from and what year it was from. And I got about 10 of those done. And then I drew the decorations on the 6 cookie boxes that I already had cut. So I just need to assemble these 6 cookie boxes. So still to do, I need to assemble all of the ornament kits. Oh, I need to cut all of the ornament strings. I need to cut the other half of the ornaments themselves. I need to assemble the rest of the ornaments that are going out assembled. I need to cut out the rest of the cookie boxes and draw the designs on the rest of the cookie boxes. And finally, I need to bake a lot more cookies. I've baked about 350 cookies total so far. If I want to get out 50 cookie boxes, I need to bake another 650 cookies. I don't know if I have time for that. I definitely have time to get all the ornaments done for sure. So that's good. We're in a good place with the ornaments, but I think I'm going to need to reduce the number of cookie boxes from the original 50. So originally I was gonna make a cookie box for all of my neighbors, even the ones that don't really talk to me. I think those people are not gonna get cookie boxes this year, so I'll take them off the list. And that's probably 4 or 5 boxes. And then I think there's probably gonna be a few friends and family members that I wanted to send cookie boxes to that it just won't happen by Christmas. But if somehow you're watching this and you're a friend or a family member who didn't get a cookie box but wants one, just message me. I'll totally send you one in January. I just don't have enough time to send out 50 boxes because they have to go out this week. It's Tuesday. They need to be shipped as soon as possible. And I also have my solstice Yule board party on Saturday, so I've got to make all the food for that. Plus I have, my 3 companies that I run. I'm finishing my tutorial for Crafting Coven. Those kits are already out, so that's good. Basically, I've got a lot on my plate this week, so I'm reassessing and reducing the number of cookie boxes I'm going to get out because at the end of the day, I don't want to burn myself out and have like a big backslide in my chronic illness or anything like that. So we're just going to do fewer cookie boxes, and that's totally fine. So with the rest of tonight, I am going to cut out the rest of my ornaments, and then I will switch to cutting out cookie boxes. And that's what really eats up cutting blades. But hopefully I have enough to get through all the cookie boxes. While the cutting machine is going and in between switching out the pieces of paper and hitting send on my computer, I will try to get as many ornaments with my name and the date written on the bottom. And then once that's done, I'll assemble all of my ornament kits. If for some reason I get all that done tonight and there's still any time left before I'm too exhausted, I will draw and assemble more cookie boxes. Yeah, It's still a lot. I'm feeling okay, I think. Ask me again in like 24 to 48 hours.
I really gave myself a lot more writing and drawing on this project than I originally anticipated. While I'm doing all the decorations on the ornaments as stickers, I did decide to hand write in gold paint pen my name and the date on the bottom of every ornament, and that took a long time. It really helped having this magnifying lamp so I could see things better, and by far the best gold paint pen was the Pilot Extra Fine Point gold marker, like by far. That is the only gold paint pen I will recommend from here on out.
I'm totally done cutting out ornaments, which is amazing. And I only had one mistake from the cutting machine, which is also amazing. This machine is incredibly beneficial, and I really feel like it's paid for itself several times over in how much I've used it. But it is not a plug and play kind of situation. There is a lot of trial and error that goes into using this machine, and it does make mistakes more often than I think is okay, and hopefully the technology will improve over time. But last night, tonight, it's been doing really well. I did iron out a ton of kinks during all of my prototyping time, and I think that's really helped me. Before I switch to my larger cutting mats and my thicker paper for the cookie boxes, I just remembered in order to assemble my kits, I need to cut all of these out. So these are the labels for my kits. I designed these really quickly in Silhouette Studio last night. They're very simple, but one thing that's nice about most cutting machines, the Silhouette, the Cricuts, etc., is they can do a print and cut. So because there are these registration marks that were printed on this paper, the machine will read those registration marks and then cut around my labels in the shape that I've indicated on Silhouette Studio. So I'm gonna do that real quick. There's only 4 of these sheets, and then I'm gonna move into cutting cookie boxes. So theoretically, the tool will read these registration marks before it goes and cuts out all my labels. Okay, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. So let's see if it cut it enough to peel off just the sticker part. Okay, it did. Awesome. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do the other 3 sheets of this. I need to switch out a couple things to go from ornaments to cookie boxes. The first thing I'm going to do is put away my 12 by 12 cutting mat and get out my 12 by 24 cutting mat because my cookie box paper is 12 by 18. So it's too big for a 12 by 12. And then I'm also going to shift my cutting machine forward to about there because you may have noticed watching it cut other stuff, the mat goes all the way through the machine as it's cutting, so it needs to have clearance behind the machine as well as in front of the machine. I have made that mistake so many times where I've had stuff piled up back here and it's messed up whatever I was cutting because the mat couldn't go freely behind the machine. Then I am just going to place my paper. Oh, and I wanted to change my blade. So changing the blade is super easy on these machines. I just pop the old one out, open up a new one, and then pop the new one in, click it to close. So it's nice that that's so easy. So now I will feed my cutting mat into the machine, and then I'll hop over to my computer, hit the send button because I already have this queued up and ready to go. And we will cross our fingers that we don't get too many mistakes. The other night when I was testing these, I created an entire paper bag full of recycling from the machine, just having a real hard time with these cookie boxes. So let's see if tonight we have better luck. My goal tonight is to cut out maybe like 30 if I can, if I have time. See. Oh, and while I am cutting out cookie boxes, I'm going to assemble the 6 I already have so I can go fill those with cookies and ship them first thing tomorrow. And I will put together ornament kits once I'm done with that.
I'm finally getting these last 6 cookie boxes that I cut during prototyping assembled so I can send them out. And I'm attempting to cut more cookie boxes. You can't really tell in the time lapse, but almost every single piece of paper you're seeing go through the machine ended up being trash, sadly.
I'm gonna stop here for tonight because this is not working. I don't know, I don't think you'll be able to see this on camera, but basically the score lines for the middle are not lining up with the cut lines for the bottom, and I've tried a couple of little tricks that I have in Silhouette Studio to fix that, and none of them are working. I need to reassess and do some research, read some forums, and come back tomorrow and try again because I'm just wasting paper at this point. So wish me luck that I figure out why it's doing what it's doing, and I also figure out how to fix it. Otherwise, I really don't want to have to abandon the cookie house project. I don't think I'll need to, but yeah, I definitely need to start again with fresh eyes and fresh energy tomorrow.
Before I went to bed, I did get the 6 boxes that I had assembled filled with cookies so that I can ship those out first thing tomorrow.
I ended up having to spend the whole day working on other projects, so I didn't get a chance to troubleshoot my cutting machine and figure out what is going on with cutting the cookie boxes. So I actually sent out, I think it was 8 bags of cookies without cookie boxes, and I think I'm the only person who cares. It's totally fine. But because it's so late tonight and I'm feeling pretty dang tired from doing so much the past couple weeks, I'm just gonna spend a few minutes putting together some ornaments, and then I'll call it for today.
I was going to record all of this in real time, but I ended up putting it on a time lapse because I was moving so slowly on this evening. I was so tired, I was so burnt out, and my body was just really rebelling against putting these ornaments together. And that was my cue to stop without completing as many as I was originally planning to, and just get a few done and head to bed.
3 days later.
Well, I've learned a lot. I have spent the past several days troubleshooting my Silhouette cutting machine, and I still don't exactly know what's wrong with it, but I have some ideas and I have some possible solutions. So when I bought this machine a year and a half ago, I was new to cutting machines and I really didn't know how much I was going to use it. So I bought, admittedly, the more hobbyist level model, meant to be used a few hours a day, a couple times a month. Now that I've had some time to get used to it and figure out what it can do, between my personal handmade brand, my craft kit subscription brand, and making custom merch for other artists and small businesses through my merch company, it's probably time to upgrade to the professional model. But that's an expense that I haven't budgeted for. I did get an email from YouTube a couple months ago telling me that I could monetize this channel, so maybe I'll do that and see if over time the AdSense can buy me a new machine. But for now, and with the fact that that new machine definitely wouldn't arrive in time to finish this project, I needed to figure out if there was anything I could do to get this to work even temporarily. Silhouette, the company that makes these machines, admittedly is not great about just providing information in general on their machines, information about troubleshooting, but there's a few creators who've tried to take up that mantle, and I couldn't find anything researching the issues I was having with this machine specifically, the Cameo 5. But when I was researching the newer model of this machine, the Cameo 5 Alpha, and also the newer professional version, the Pro Mark II, I came across a couple of videos talking about those machines that gave me some ideas on what could be happening with this machine. And I was able to do a couple things to get it to work, sort of, at least temporarily. I really don't know how long those fixes will last, but if I can at least get through the cookie boxes, that's something, right? So, and I apologize that I didn't film any of this. I was really crunched for time, and also it wasn't very exciting to watch. It was just me going back and forth between this and my computer and pulling my hair out. But another thing I did was make things easier on this machine by not having to cut such long runs. For the cookie boxes, I've been using this 12-inch by 18-inch, relatively heavy 80-pound cardstock. And what was happening, actually, I think I have an example. You might be able to see it on this one, but what was happening as the machine was trying to cut these long lines, the rollers were malfunctioning and the paper was skewing. And so none of the lines were matching up, therefore making these totally unusable. So one of the things I did was cut my cookie box in half. And then I was able to get successful cuts doing half a cookie box and then the other half of a cookie box. So now I will have to do another seam. So I'll attach the cookie box together on this side, and then I'll flip it over and also attach it on this side. It's a little bit more work for me, but it worked, and I was able to get a successful complete cut. Great, I will take it. But because this took so many days to troubleshoot, I did have to send a lot of my cookies out without the boxes. So if you are a friend or family member watching this that just got a plain bag of cookies, not in a cute gingerbread cookie box, sorry. I hope you like the cookies. I will try to get this project started earlier next year. Although next year will be a completely different ornament and a completely different cookie box. Why? Because why not? So what that means is at this point, I only need to make 12 more cookie boxes. I only have 12 more people that I haven't yet gifted cookies and ornaments to on my list. So now we need to cut out 11 more of these and hope that the machine lasts at least that long, crossing our fingers. And then we just need to draw all of our designs on all of our pieces, assemble all of our cookie boxes, make 4 more batches of Kransekaka cookies, finish assembling all of our ornaments, and get everything in the mail that needs to be mailed and everything else gifted to the local people. No big deal, right? Almost done, so close. Admittedly, that's still a lot of work, and I need to finish this project today. Please excuse me while I time-lapse all of those things so that I can get them done as quickly as possible, and let's see if I make it to the finish line.
I am in the final push, and I'm actually feeling pretty good. My energy levels are pretty good. I'm really happy that I figured out how to make these cookie boxes work. I really didn't want to abandon this project. I'm a little miffed that I'm not using the full 18-inch length of the expensive cardstock that I bought, but that's okay. I'm going to save the other half and find a project to use that on later. However, drawing all of these cookie boxes in one go was tough. My body really felt it by the end of this. I normally try to not do a repetitive, tedious task like this for longer than an hour at a time, and I think this took me 2 or 3 hours, but I did find the best white paint pens. I will put a link in the description. I went through so many different white paint pens. These are the best by far. And now I just need to assemble all of my cookie boxes. I'm using a low temperature glue gun to do this. It worked pretty well. I think a high temperature glue gun may have worked a little bit better, but I like the low temp because it cannot burn you. It's just not hot enough. And so far, the cookie boxes that have made it to their destinations have arrived in one piece, so I think it's okay. I'm attaching all my ribbons so I can put a nice bow at the top. And then I just need to fill these with cookies. Believe it or not, this is not my final 4 batches of cookies. I actually have 2 more batches to make next week for the people that asked me to wait to send their cookies until they were back from traveling for the holidays. But by this point, I have really got this recipe down. I can make the heck out of some Kransekaka cookies after this many. Now I just need to get all of these cookies iced. The royal icing I'm making is just egg whites, powdered sugar, and a little bit of almond extract, but I did make it thicker than I normally do, and as a result, this was quite the arm workout to get all these done. But I did manage to finish them all, and now let's check in and talk about the final results.
Okay, so final check-in. When I started this project only a few weeks ago, I genuinely did not know if I was going to pull it off or if this was going to turn into one long cautionary tale about ambition, chronic illness, and poor holiday planning. But I did get to the finish line. Not perfectly, not exactly according to the original plan, but in a way that still feels truly meaningful. I ended up scaling the cookie boxes back, and honestly, I'm glad I did. The version of me that always wants to do everything at the highest level of detail is always going to exist. But the version of me that has to actually live in this body with limited energy and real consequences for overdoing it is the one that gets the final vote. And that's kind of the theme for this whole project. I can still do ambitious things, but I have to do it in a way that honors my actual rhythm. The ornaments in particular feel like a small miracle to me. This is the tradition that I've been trying to start for years. One ornament each winter, a different one every year, and this is the first year I've actually made it happen at any kind of scale. And the cookie boxes. I'm still really glad that I fought for them. Even with the cutting machine chaos, even with the troubleshooting, even with having to send some cookies out naked in plain bags, which I'm still slightly offended by, but I've accepted it. Okay, let's take a look at where things actually ended up in the numbers. My original goal was 50 cookie boxes and 100 ornaments. When all was said and done, I made 62 ornament kits and 34 fully assembled ornaments for a total of 96 ornaments. On the cookie side, I made 27 gingerbread cookie boxes, plus sent out about 15 to 18 bags of cookies without boxes. And all together, that comes out to roughly 800 Kransekaka cookies baked, iced and sent out into the world. When I say the numbers out loud like this, it feels both completely unhinged and kind of amazing at the same time. And I'm super proud, not because it was perfect, but because it happened, because I found workarounds, because I kept adjusting the plan instead of abandoning the project, and because I didn't burn myself into the ground trying to prove something. If you are someone living with chronic illness, dynamic disability, or just a season of life where your capacity is limited, I hope this video is a reminder that meaningful traditions don't need to look the way they used to. Sometimes the win is simply, I made it, I adapted, I sent the gifts. I didn't break myself in the process. And one last thing before I go, I ended up making one extra ornament kit and one extra cookie box. And since I have to make another batch of cookies on January 1st anyway, for the people I'm sending to who are currently out of town, I thought it would be fun to do a small giveaway. If you've watched this video all the way to the end, go ahead and leave a house emoji in the comments, and I'll consider that your entry into the giveaway. I'll pick one house comment at random on New Year's Day and reach out to you privately to get your shipping information. Disclaimer, because this giveaway includes perishable food, I can only offer it to US residents in the lower 48. Next year, I am absolutely starting earlier, and I'm saying that on camera so you can hold me to it. If you watched all the way through, thank you for being here. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in the next one.